So one thing that can hurt us as bass anglers is falling into patterns. You know, we will get into a certain pattern, whether it's a bait, a certain kind of presentation, you know, like a technique or a rig or something like that, and we'll get on a bite, and then when that bite goes away, we don't know what to go do or where to follow the fish to. Or it's a certain area, you know, it's a set of banks, it's a set of docks, it's a certain set of waypoints. You go there, you know, day after day after day, and then all of a sudden the fish move or the fish leave, and then you can't get a bite. What do we do in those situations? Well, I call that fishing history. Now, fishing history can be super effective. There are just areas of the lake that fish live. There are parts of any given body of water, river, stream, lake, pond, whatever it is, fish just live there for any certain set of circumstances, and it can be a place that you can go and get bites. But then sometimes those fish aren't there for whatever given reason. And what do? Well, definitely don't try to fish that history anymore. You might need to make an adjustment. And so I want to kind of talk about two things that I focus on to not fish history, and then how I take where if I am fishing history and it isn't working, how I adjust to go look for some more fish. So the first one is going to be trash it all, start brand new. That's one of my favorite things to do. I am the kind of angler that I have kind of zero expectations when I get to the lake, because I know every time I go to the lake, it is going to be a different experience. Even if I'm on the most wicked bite ever, if I've been catching them all week in practice and I get to a tournament, sometimes that stuff just doesn't work. And we've got to trash the whole plan, and we've got to start over. And that's when I'll fall back on a tip that I gave you guys in another video, which is fish the conditions and fish your gut. I can't tell you how many times, again, I've showed up on tournament day, I've got this grand plan put together in my head, I'm going to fish history or something that I practice on, I get there and I get no bites. And I literally will take a moment, I'll sit down in the bottom of the boat or in my kayak, get out my sandwich, eat my sandwich, and just sit there and go, what are the conditions telling me to do? You know, are they telling me that to go throw a spinnerbait on a bluff? Are they telling me to go throw a choppo around boat docks? Is it telling me to go drag a shaky head? You know, what are the conditions telling me to do? And then that's what I try to go do, because I think sometimes we as anglers get so in our own heads when it comes to bass fishing that sometimes kind of trashing the whole plan, fishing via instinct and going and trying something brand new can give us just enough of a confidence boost to keep something in our hand long enough to maybe discover a bite that you didn't even know was going on, and or kind of start to turn your day around to maybe then go pick up again where you left off and get some bites. And so those are two things that I try to focus on so much, is just fish the conditions and fish my gut, because it doesn't matter where you're at on your angling journey. There's something about listening to your instincts and what your instincts tell you to do that can lead you down a road where you are going to catch bass or catch really fish in general. I mean, even for me in trout fishing situations, I knew nothing about trout fishing before the beginning of this past year, 2024. And I just kind of fished my instincts, kind of went out there and, you know, I tried some stuff I saw online, couldn't get any fish, but then when I just picked up what I thought should work in the places that I thought it should work at, kind of based off what I knew on bass fishing, I started to get bites. And so I think that can apply to bass fishing as well. The second method is kind of just the macro adjustments off what you have already been doing. Now, this is kind of like fishing history. I'm telling you not to fish history, but this is kind of fishing history adjacent. And I'll give you a story or an example of where this has worked for me. There is an area of a river system around me that is just an area that holds bass. It holds bass all the time, especially in the summer. It's an area that I can kind of go to. It's a little bit of a milk run for me, we will say, and it's a place that I've gone and done really well in kayak tournaments before. And so I show up to this area and the water is completely blown out. It's really muddy, and I went through that area. I fished, you know, the wacky rig, I fished the frog, I fished the bladed jig. I got one bite, and I'm thinking to myself, these fish have to be here somewhere. It's not like they just up and moved 10 miles away. And so I kind of backed off the area and really started to kind of take in what was going on. And what I noticed is the outflow of a bunch of water in this one area had kind of created a little bit of a back eddy about 25 yards down the bank from my primary spot where I've been catching those fish. Pedal down there in my kayak, throw the wacky rig up on the bank, and I hook like a 17-incher. Throw back in there 16-incher. The fish that I had been catching had just moved literally 25 yards down the bank and had repositioned on that back eddy where that creek that was dumping into the river had created a new back eddy seam for those fish to live in. And it literally just pushed those fish not even 25 yards. I think it's like 25 or 30 yards off my main area. So sometimes trashing it all and starting over can work, but then sometimes keeping the plan together that you have because you know it should work and just making slight micro adjustments, you know, maybe away from something. If you're on a school, cast just 10 yards to the left of the school or 10 yards to the right to the school. I've seen that before where you're catching fish off a school, they quit biting, you cast this 10 yards to the left and you reactivate the school because they themselves made a micro adjustment. You know, fish move. It's the kind of inevitability of the sport that we're in that fish are going to move and fish are going to make adjustments, and it's kind of the gambling part of what we do when we get out there. But making those micro adjustments can put so many fish into the boat. And so keep those things in mind. Don't fish history, but all at the same time, have the willingness to kind of make a micro adjustment on what you know should be working, because sometimes that's going to catch fish. And if you actually want to see that exact video that I'm talking about where I made that micro adjustment, just moved right off the spot, click this video. It's popping up right here.